and welcome to Autism Live Chat Show. We've got another great show coming up for you today. I'm joined by Stephanie. Stephanie, thanks for joining me on the show today. It's
Hi.
such a pleasure to have you on. Loving the air as well, really cool. Love the colour,
Thank you.
absolutely brilliant. Just love it. Stephanie, tell me a little bit about yourself.
I've got three diagnoses. I've got autism, ADHD, and the borderline personality disorder.
So, Stephanie, can you tell me when you first got diagnosed with autism?
Oh gosh, the autism and the ADHD were probably started about 11 years ago, 10, 11 years ago. The personality disorder one was more recent. That was only November last year.
Okay, so when you got diagnosed with your autism, uh, did you? So, what age are you now?
I'm 41 now, so it was around 30.
30. And was the diagnosis process quite difficult?
Um, Not really. Frustrating, but not difficult. Nothing that I really struggled. Do you know what I mean? Like I'd already knew quite a lot about it and accepted a lot because two of my children were already diagnosed. Just frustrated on like waiting lists and things like that and times and stuff.
So, having diagnosed with autism, you've also were diagnosed with ADHD as well. Tell us a little bit about your ADHD and how that affects you.
Um, I've managed to gain a little bit of control over it lately. Well, taking out the personality disorder. Um, Very hyperactive, impulsive, inattentive as well. Just not able to focus long enough to achieve not an awful lot, really.
So you've got two children. How old are your children?
I've got three.
Oh, three. Wow.
The eldest is the eldest is 21, 19, and then 13. My youngest, my daughter, 13.
So you've got your hands full quite a lot there. So
Quite a bit.
you were
Keeps me out of mischief.
I bet. So you were diagnosed with borderline personality disorder. Tell us a little
Yeah.
bit about that and how that actually came about.
Well, it's more known over in America as borderline personality disorder. Here, it's emotionally unstable personality disorder. There's just a different name for it. It started about 5 years ago. Didn't have a clue really, and I'd gone to the GP. I was really struggling, and they said it was depression, and I knew it didn't sit right with me. I knew it wasn't that. It just didn't feel like that. Um, Tried a couple of different medications, and it turned out I was hypersensitive, so they heightened the traits. Obviously, I didn't know then they heightened the traits of the personality disorder, so it was a lot of hallucinating and passing out as well and things like that. It was very difficult. So I come off all of them, um, and then went back. They referred me to a local unit
Hmm.
for a mental health assessment, and it was from there that I got sent to. It's called Wessex House here, and I'm really lucky. I've got a really good mental health team who work with me, and I've actually known the psychiatrist for years. He was, when I first met him, he was my son's child psychiatrist back then. They've been so good. So it took about 5 years in all from start to actually being diagnosed and being able to start therapy for it and things like that.
So, Stephanie, because you've got these multiple, in which sometimes they can be called comorbid conditions, where you can have one
Yeah.
condition and you can have another condition followed by another condition. So, having three conditions,
I'm greedy.
Greedy. Does that? Would you say that even affects you more on a day-to-day basis by having more conditions, facing more challenges, facing more misconceptions?
I think so. I find that it can be a bit like a domino effect. So one trait of one will bring out the trait of another. So the parts of autism, if I'm feeling overwhelmed in sensory, it will spiral anxiety, and it's anxiety and stress that can trigger episodes in the personality disorder. So trying to keep that balance is quite difficult when all three are kind of clashing with each other. And I think the ADHD is the driving force almost. It heightens the personality disorder even more.
So how would you say it enheightens it? How does it do that?
I think I can only speak from my own experience because I don't know what it's like to have just one condition. I feel that the hyperactivity component, the trait in the ADHD, will push the personality disorder even higher because the BPD, we feel emotions far more intensely than anybody else would, to the point they can consume you completely, mostly negative. I can't, at the moment in time, I can't see a positive side to having the personality disorder. Maybe that'll change one day. I don't know. Maybe the positive will be getting to the end of therapy. Maybe the positive will be surviving. I don't know. I've yet to discover that bit. But it certainly impacts, I feel it impacts the depth of the emotion and the intensity.
So if we talk about therapies and treatment, do you go to therapy sessions? Do you have any type of medication for your conditions?
Yeah, I have therapy once a week with a lovely lady with my care team. What they've done is I have a combination. It's been adapted to take into account my autism. So I've been told what would usually happen would be that when you get a diagnosis, you would go into a group therapy session. But I was told I wouldn't learn, that wasn't the best way for me to learn the skills that I need to put in place in daily life in order to cope and live a more stable life. So I'm very lucky. They give me one-to-one and they've adapted it. So I get a combination of CBT and DBT and then little bits thrown in here and there because with the autism, I struggle if they give me a scenario to work with to implement a skill, unless it's a lived experience for me. I struggle to imagine that scenario and kind of hit a brick wall with it a little bit. So they're very, very patient with me and very supportive as well. So I go and then I get a home visit every fortnight, roughly at the moment, every fortnight. So I get quite a bit of support from the team. They're very good.
So you just mentioned about CBT and you mentioned something about, is it D? You mentioned something D?
Yeah, DBT
so
as well.
People who don't know watching this now, I know what CBT is, but what's the other part?
DBT, now I might get this wrong, DBT is dialectical behaviour therapy.
Okay.
And to be honest, because I get a combination of the two and it's adapted specifically for my learning style and my needs, I would struggle to separate and tell you what that actually is. So, sorry about that. But I'm learning skills. If I've got a number chart, so because when I'm in crisis, I struggle to identify how I'm feeling and what emotion it is I'm feeling. I have a number chart that we've set up that we're working on, and I have all my behaviours, if you like, listed under numbers 1 to 6. And so I can ring up when I'm in crisis, and my family also have these charts, and just say, I'm at number 3 or 4 or whatever number it is. And then the person on the other end of the phone, whoever it is I'm talking to, or whoever it is I'm seeking help from, the list is on my file, all my files, so GP, crisis team, the mental health unit, and it's a lot easier for them to suggest a skill that's on there that'll be listed. So my behaviour will be listed, and then a list of skills, so they'll be able to say, your number so-and-so, have you tried this? And it's a lot easier, and I think that's taking into account the autism as well, rather than me having to try and explain to somebody what it is I'm feeling and what it is my behaviours have been as well.
So have you ever got to the stage you just mentioned about crisis? Have you ever got to that stage where you've been in crisis, or you've got to that point?
Yeah, many times. It's quite difficult because I have a wonderful mental health team surrounding me, but it's been a little bit difficult for me personally when I've had to reach out to crisis because they don't know me. So when it comes to, again, having all 3 diagnoses, I don't seem to get very good, or I don't respond very positively to what they have to offer. So I've never really had a good experience, although I'm sure lots of people have kind of had a good experience from them. So
what's a day-to-day day like for you, Stephanie? What's your average day?
It's a bit like a bag of pick and mix. It can vary quite a lot. I'd say on a more milder day, and I do use the word milder because I don't really have mild. I don't feel there is any mild traits of the personality disorder. I think every waking moment I have to, part of my therapy has been to question thoughts. I have intrusive thoughts, quite dangerous thoughts. I have to check the facts. I have to question them. I have to really challenge them, otherwise they can grow and the thoughts can then impact onto my behaviour. And that's what we're trying to put a stop to at the moment, or at least reduce, so that my thoughts, I'm able to challenge them and keep them as thoughts and not let them spill over into behaviours. Sorry, go on.
Yeah, I was just going to say, just coming back to, because this is quite an interesting subject, what I was going to ask is with the CBT therapy, the cognitive behavioural therapy, sometimes it does help people with autism, sometimes it doesn't help people with autism. What's your thoughts on that, Stephanie?
Again, because I have it adapted for my autism, and it's a combination with DBT as well, and just random bits thrown in, it is helping me. It's working for me. I've never had just CBT on its own though. Like I haven't had the DBT, so I don't think it's fair for me to say yes or no because I have it combined and adapted. At the minute, it's the package that I'm getting is working for me. It's taken a long time. It's very hard work, mentally retaining and remembering, and it's constantly referring back to it to enable you to live a more stable life as well. You don't get to just do a weekly session and then, have a party at the weekend. It's like constantly every minute of the day you're working hard to control it.
So do you find it more of a challenge with having children around as well? Does that impact on stresses and strains with the family?
I think I'm quite lucky in the sense that my 2 lads, 21 and 19, are adults, and my eldest has autism and ADHD, and They're very understanding, they're very supportive, non-judgmental. I'm sure they have it hard. I'm sure, I fight the feelings of guilt because of what they've seen, what I've put them through, the worry. But they're amazing young men, and I'm very proud of them. My daughter, she has autism and selective mutism. She's in a specialist school in North Yorkshire. She is surrounded daily and has a very high awareness of mental health and a variety of different behaviour, challenging behaviours. So I think in that sense, we're quite a diverse family anyway. And I think, or I like to think how I cope with the guilt is to, the more aware and understanding. I used to try and hide it, even from, my eldest two, the adults. I used to try and hide it. And that became difficult, and it became impossible in the end. When you've got the police storm in your house at 5 a.m, you can't really hide that, can you? So I found being open with them has actually helped all of us as a family be more supportive of each other.
Well, we're just getting some messages coming in on social media.
Okay.
Lots of people are watching. We've had Connor's said, I would have thought as my son being diagnosed with ADHD, SPD and GLD. He also says, but my son has an undiagnosed of PDA and ASC. Jane says, big hugs to you, Stephanie. Glad you're getting support, and emotions can be tough. Jane also says, sounds like your CBT is helping you. Well done for your hard work, and you're a fighter. Lots of love to you, Stephanie. And
Thank you.
So lots and lots of messages coming through on social media. Lots of people are watching at the moment.
Thank you.
What sort of hobbies, like weekly hobbies or daily hobbies, and interests do you have around the conditions, or putting the conditions aside? Do you have any pets? Do you like doing anything like therapeutic, like arts and crafts or anything like that?
I tend to get a bit frustrated with arts and crafts. I'm not great at it, really. I did try doing that mindfulness colouring, those like dead little, really little.
Yes, I've seen them,
patterns.
yes.
No, that wasn't for me. Let's just say a few leads got broken on those pencils. Didn't enjoy that. I think the one thing I get the most out of is just walking my dog. And it sounds so simple, but getting that exercise, getting out of the house, although I can't actually go out of the house on my own at the moment. I don't feel confident after the episodes I've had and disassociated. I don't feel confident. I am working on exposure therapy with my team. I'm only at the very beginning stages though, but yeah, walking my dog would be a big one, and reading. I like to read. Kind of takes you away into another world.
So do you think, Stephanie, like you're saying, the exercise, walking your dogs and doing things with animals, pets and that, taking them out, exercising, do you think that helps your mental health?
It helps mine, yeah, definitely. Although there is a fine balance. There's a fine balance between, there's some days when it's not a good day, and it's learning to recognise when it's not going to help my mental health, when it's going to actually put too much more pressure on me and make me spiral. So I'm learning to recognise the signs, but as a rule, yes, I try and get out with my husband every day. Doesn't always work, but we try, and have a good walk with the dog and try bits of mindfulness. I'm not great at it. It does annoy me, if I'm honest. But yeah, try the mindfulness, breathing techniques as well. Tend to shallow breathe, which isn't great, but it's being conscious, it's being mindful of breathing properly as well when I'm out. And I do feel a lot better when I come back from that.
So, Stephanie, what's your thoughts of today's budget proposals that they're on about playing more and more, well, thousands, even millions into mental health?
I was pleased. I had a bad experience. I've had two. I've had a bad experience and I've had a good experience, so it's not all bad. The first time was years ago, and I went up to the A&E department. I just couldn't see a way out, and my husband took me up there. And after waiting for a couple of hours, I was actually met with a nurse who asked me why I'd bothered coming up here because there's nothing they could do for me. So when you can't see a way out and you actually do reach out for help and there's none there, it does reinforce those intrusive negative thoughts. So it does need more funding in the system. It does need more understanding. I think it needs a little bit more of everything, to be honest. I don't think it's impossible. I think it's achievable. I think we're on the right path. And I do think it needs to be balanced with physical health as well, because one actually follows the other. You know, there's many times my physical health has suffered as a direct result of my mental health, especially, you know, with self-harming and things like that. And then you end up using them resources anyway. So if it was dealt with at first, there wouldn't be any need to then need physical, like assistance with physical injuries as well.
So, Stephanie, people watching this now who probably maybe just tuning in and don't know anything about borderline personality disorder, is there any national support groups or national charities out there where people can reach out, or people just watching this now may think that they have borderline personality, or they think, oh, you know, Stephanie's talking now and that sounds exactly like me? How do they reach out for help?
I don't know of any charities, although there might be some. I would go to the GP as the first point of call, and it would be a referral then for a mental health assessment, and they would take it from there. It's a long process because to be diagnosed, it's obviously a lot of talking. There's a lot of honesty involved, which isn't always easy at first. A lot of honesty, a lot of openness, and also trust. I mean, I had a really amazing psychologist, I have, and we built up quite a good relationship. So I do think that that's important as well, that you do have someone you feel comfortable enough to talk to, because you've got to open up. You know, there's no point in hiding things, otherwise it's just not going to get any better.
So is there for borderline personality, is there a number of traits or number of diagnostic tools the professionals have to use before you're actually given that label?
I think, if I remember rightly, I think there's about 9 basically boxes, traits, and I think they have to, which I didn't know this until afterwards, I think they have to take a certain amount of them, quite a high number of them, to be diagnosed with it.
So do you find that sometimes people in general don't understand your borderline personality? Do you think sometimes, do you have to explain to people what you've got?
Yeah. I haven't met anyone, like, in real life who, it's always, what's that? You know, it's like, oh, it's a horrible question because it's so detailed. It's really difficult to answer, and basically it's horrible, but it is unstable emotions and the intensity of them, and the shame as well. It's all emotions, because when that anger erupts, the shame that follows it's crushing. You know, I read somewhere, and I wish I could remember the name, but I read somewhere that they described depression as drowning, but the borderline personality disorder as just being set on fire because it's so strong. It's just roaring and it's awful.
So it's quite difficult, and it must be, you know, every day must be a challenge for you. But I do thank
Yeah.
you for coming on the show today and,
Thank you for having me on.
sharing your insight and being, being truthful, honest, and open, because, that takes a lot of courage to do that. And
Thank you.
I know we've been friends on Twitter for quite a long
Yeah,
time now,
quite a few
and
years now,
yeah,
isn't it?
quite a few years now. So it's really good to speak to you, and it's
Thank you.
good, by all the messages just coming in on social media, explaining different things and people asking different questions. Obviously, you're creating awareness with your condition. So there may be
Yeah,
many people out there who may have a child or even a son or daughter who
yeah,
may possibly well have PDA or ADHD or
yeah.
autism, and they may think that, oh, my Johnny or Billy or
Hmm.
Sarah's got that, may wonder if
Yeah,
they've got that, and so you've opened up, a discussion here where people may think, or even themselves may be watching this and may
yeah,
think, well,
definitely. Yeah,
I just sound
definitely.
so like Stephanie, or and these obviously there's more than one Stephanie out there. There's lots of people probably out there with
Not really with blue hair.
people with borderline personality disorder, and when discussing things like mental health issues, because still now
Mm,
it can be so stigmatized. Thank you for for being open and honest and
thank
sharing
you.
sharing your story. Is there any local support groups or online forums or any internet based chat rooms where people can access?
The one I find really helpful is it's on a Sunday night, and it's use the hashtag on Twitter, use the hashtag BPD chat, and I find it's been the most supportive group of people who globally join in to chat. It's run by a Carl Dunn on Twitter, and he's very, very good. So if anyone is thinking of, reaching out for any support that doesn't have any, I'd definitely, if they're on Twitter, recommend that hashtag to use on a Sunday night at 9 o'clock UK time.
So just recap them details again. So if people just missed that, just give us a recap on that, Stephanie.
It's Sunday evenings, 9 p.m. UK time, and it's the hashtag on Twitter, BPD chat, and it's run by a man called at Carl Dunn. So it's really, really worth having a look on there, because I get a lot from that and a lot of support as well. And there's some lovely people, and there's no judgment, lots of understanding.
And I think that's the most important thing, when you've got a condition, is just having that, that help and that understanding, and just having
Yeah,
somebody to talk to, that
yeah,
does really
definitely.
help.
It's because it's quite an isolating condition. It is, but I find it very isolating.
Stephanie, thank you so much for joining me
You're
on today's
welcome. Thank
show.
you for having
It's been a
me.
pleasure to have you on. So thank you
Thank
so
you.
much. Thank you. It's been great. I'll be joined in 10 minutes' time with Bethany's father, Jeremy. He joined me on the show a few weeks ago. Also, I've spoken to him twice on the show now. Jeremy has got some news, so I'll be sharing that with you in 10 minutes on Autism Live Chat. Again, Stephanie, thank you for being my guest today. It's
You're
been a
welcome.
pleasure
Thank
to have
you.
you on, and I'm sure we'll catch up again soon. Take care.
Definitely. Thank you.
Thank you. Bye, Stephanie.
Bye.